The recording is started. Hello, I am Mark Miller. I am with Career Pivot. I am with my trusty sidekick, Elizabeth. When you introduce yourself.
I'm Elizabeth Rebay. I live here in Austin, Texas. I work for an environmental engineering company here. I'm their marketing coordinator, and I have the honor of helping out Mark with his projects related to Career Pivot and do social media, email campaigns, help him update his website, things like that.
So all of the nice artwork that comes out and the nice emails that you get all come from Elizabeth. They don't come from me. I am artistically challenged. So
I'm having fun.
One of the things, tonight's topic, what I want to do is I want to talk about, I am all around the second half of life and careers in the second half of life and how that has changed. So Elizabeth, you want to ask this first questions?
Sure. We've got a couple questions here that we're going to toss out. So Mark, what triggered your discussion or your thoughts? I'm sure everybody's read your blog post from today, talking about the second half of life. What started that?
Well, there was a Richard Eisenberg, who rather interesting. I went to college with at Northwestern. I didn't know him, but we graduated at the same time. He is the managing editor for PBS Next Avenue, and he wrote a blog post about 2 weeks ago on baby boomers and inheritance. And basically, there was a big survey. I forget who did the survey, basically saying that 30% of boomers plan on giving their kids an inheritance. Okay. A good 40% said, if there's money left over at the end, there may be some. And 30% said, nope, not doing it. Just not doing it. And so this is a big difference from our parents' generation or their parents' generation, where everyone was focused on, we want to make things better for our kids. Yes. And one of the things that has changed is we are spending more money on our kids beforehand, so we're not waiting to the end to allow them to inherit the money. But two, a whole bunch of us, and I'm included in this boat, have no intention of giving money to my son. Now, if there's money left over, and I certainly hope there's money left over when I'm gone, he is welcome to it.
Okay.
But the plan is, I plan on living to 100. Well, that's a long damn time. And so just simply the way we are looking at aging is very different than our parents. And so therefore, the way we look at careers, like I talked in the article, my father was literally forced into retirement at the age of 48 in 1978. And he was not ready to retire. Sorry, yeah, he was 50. He was 58 in 78.
58, yeah. Okay.
And he didn't want to retire, and everyone said, "Well, just go retire." And he had a big fat pension. He had more than enough money. And the concept of doing a encore or a second career was pretty unknown. Take example, your father, Elizabeth. He was a farmer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he was.
Mm-hmm. Right. Did he ever think of doing something different?
Not that I'm aware of, but right. That he wanted to do. But I do have to give him or say he was pretty innovative. He learned to use a computer and has connected and with a lot of former friends. He was in the Navy, and so and to some extent that was kind of his second career, is to kind of have some fun because he worked so hard in the beginning of his life. So
this whole concept of an encore career, and so that's why I wrote in the post is, we now have two halves of lives. Our parents didn't really have that. They had a working life and retirement. and we will work much longer. And so there is a concept of a second half of life that no one talked about 15 years ago.
That is true. I'm thinking of my second half of my life, so what I want to do.
Well, Linda, my
everybody
editor,
should be.
Well, Linda, my editor, commented to me after she edited the post. She says, "Oh, I'm in the second half of life." And so, let's see, is it Tracy Cooper? My dad was forced into retirement too, but is a disabled veteran. Yeah, it's a lot of us, we get forced into retirement, but is that really what we want to do? And so one of the concepts I wrote in the post was, when we were young and we graduated from college and we started our careers, we were focused on a lot of different things. I wanted to save money to buy a house. By the way, that house is paid for. Yes, as she wrote, not what he wanted to do. That's right. Similarly, I got married, I had a kid. I followed the normal progression of what everyone expected me to do. And at some point in time, for me, it was in my mid-40s that finally, when I was 46, my son graduated from high school, headed off to college. We had that funded. My first startup, fortunately, left us debt-free, so we were able to pay off the house. So for me, it happened in my mid-40s. And in the late 90s, when I was working for IBM, I reached the point that I didn't want to get promoted. So Elizabeth, you still there? Or did we lose you? I bet her computer went out. So the idea of just simply a second act is a brand new concept. I'm going to unlock as she got out. Let's see if I can. There we go. I left one open seat, and so it's a different concept of what. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about this evening, is when does the second half of life begin? For many of us, it's not until our 50s and 60s. Some of it depends on, when do our kids leave? I was very careful. When our son left the house, we sold the house. We moved into a condo. There is no bedroom for him to boomerang back into. It's very different than my brother, who has both his sons still living at home, and they're in their late 20s and early 30s. So this is the kind of tact I'm going to take over the next month or so, when does that occur? And so I think as Tracy says, my second half began when I started thinking of heavily which is now. And so Tracy, do you want to join in? Why don't you go grab the seat now that Elizabeth is out? I think her computer went down. Elizabeth is coming back. You're back.
Yes.
Did your computer lock up?
I guess, and then the page just went white and said, "Oh snap!" The page went away.
Oh, and Stan says, and then there was Grandma Moses. So what was the next?
Oh, okay. I thought another
expression you had.
Another thing that we wanted to ask and to get your advice on is, what do you mean by the second half of your life? What do you mean by that?
Well, in the second half, like I said, by the time I had an IBM in the late 90s, you know what? I didn't care about getting promoted anymore. I didn't want. Tracy says she's in PJs. She doesn't want to get on screen. By the way, you don't know what's on the bottom half of this.
I'm a lot of people.
I put a nice shirt on. That's it. Okay. So I came out of the video world. I know all about that. But so my priorities have changed. I reached a point where I didn't care about getting promoted. I just wanted to go to work, make decent money, enjoy what I was doing. And after all my career changes, I went back into my last job was for a company called Life Size, where literally it started to kill me. My blood pressure went over the top. The stress levels were incredible. And I went, you know what? I don't want to do this. And so my wife and I, we downsized. We dramatically cut our expenses. We're living on about 2/3 to half of what we used to. And my priorities around my career are really different now than they were, in my 20s and 30s, when I was still trying to save money for my son's college education and all that other good stuff.
I think the older we get, we pick and choose our battles.
Yes.
And so your priorities change.
Yeah, this is one of the things I'm seeing. I've got multiple clients right now who are going, okay, they are no longer promotable. They are no longer, I have several that work in the pharmaceutical industry, and they are not, they don't have the career runway anymore to be promoted. Okay. And so therefore they kind of went, okay, this is where there's a great book. Oh gosh, my mind's gone blank. CRS.
Oh, repack your.
No, the book about the one you're doing the review on.
The one about oh goodness, now I can't think of it. Okay.
Was it the I'll think of it. Yeah. It is all about going, okay, it's all about doing less.
Oh, essentialism?
Essentialism.
Yeah. Yes.
And she's finding that she can essentially say no to her manager, and for doing where her manager wants her to do stupid stuff, and she's saying no. And one of the things I learned early in my career was to learn how to do things to keep my plate full with things I wanted to do. And then when people gave me stuff to do that I didn't want to do, my plate was already full. And I had no problem saying, by the way, what do you want me to take off my plate? And the answer is usually nothing. That's a very good skill to have. Right?
Yeah.
By the way, that's Jack, to have. That's Jack walking up behind me. Our very, very large cat. Anyway, so yeah, I have a very different attitude about my career, and I turned 60 this year than I did in my 40s. And after I had my bicycle accident in 2002, I went, why am I doing this?
Yes.
And I think a lot of us are finally reaching that point, and we both need and want to keep working. Most of us need to keep working for both the monetary, but also for our own mental health. The fact is, you will live, if you give up work, you will die.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so that doesn't mean working 40 hours a week. It might be working 20 hours a week. It might be working 30 hours a week. But having some purpose.
Some place to go, a schedule,
yes.
task.
Yep.
Communication with others.
Yep. And for many of us, this starts when, like I said, Linda, my editor, she was talking about her kids are going to be soon graduating high school. As a single mom, that's going to change things.
Yes.
And so,
yes, it is.
As they get out of the house, wow, what does that mean? I remember when our son left home, I lost track of seasons.
Okay.
I knew what time of year it was based on what sport or band or what he was doing in school.
What little treats he was selling.
Well, I have kids walking down the street in a uniform, and in some uniform, I go, well, what kind of year is it? Because our social life was largely around his schedule. And when he left, wow, that left quite a void. So, Elizabeth, do you have any other questions?
Yes. How would you approach careers differently in the second half of your life? What would you do different for your career?
I think in the first half, I think we both understand this, is the fact that I did what my parents told me to do. I took directions, or I didn't. When you're 18, even when you reach 25, because most guys' brain doesn't finish developing until 25, you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
So you start out and you start taking stabs at things, and at some point in time, and I think it was Mike Martin who's going, "Yep," is at some point in time you go, "Okay, I really don't want to do this anymore." But going off and making some much more, I claim you're making the same decisions that you made when you were 18 to 25. Back then, you had no money, you had no stuff, and you didn't know what to do. And now many of us have a lot of stuff. We still got no money, and we still have to figure out what we want to do. So it's very often it's the very same decisions that have to be made. And so, but we can, when you get rid of the fact that, well, geez, maybe I don't have to worry about money, or more importantly, one of my decisions is I want to work less, and I want to work on my terms. And by the way, I don't want to go into the office at 8 a.m. because someone told me I have to be there at 8 a.m. So I want to do it on my terms.
And with your skills and connections and you can bring all that to the table, so you'd have that flexibility to do it on your terms.
Yeah, I mean, why did I become an engineer? Well, I got 720 on my math SAT. And the counselor said, go forth and be an engineer. What I didn't realize when I learned how to program and got my computer science degree, I don't have the attention span to sit. I was sitting down in an office with a coding pad in 1978 writing assembler for word processors.
Your cards.
Barf.
Your punch cards.
No, this we were much more sophisticated than punch cards.
Oh, okay.
We were entering. I wrote it on a tablet. I gave it to a librarian. She entered it into the mainframe, which then got downloaded into a microprocessor computer. So we were cool. I was working on a machine that was like equivalent of a System 34. And yes, I know. Stan, I even used paper tape. We had a big machine that had a 32. We had a big machine. This is 1978 with a 32 meg hard drive. Now the sucker was gigantic, but so. Oh, Stan, a 1620. Okay. Elizabeth just went off again. She's having problems with her computer tonight. So why don't we go ahead and open it up? Anybody want to pop in and ask any questions? I'll unlock the. If you want to pop in, go ahead and pop in. Here comes Stan. There you are. Now I am recording you. Is that okay?
That's fine. That's
okay.
Perfectly.
So when did you stop? You're retiring, but you're trying to keep working.
Yes, I'm not really sure. I left Bayer when was it? It was early in 1997 and started my own business. I bought a franchise and soon decided it wasn't the business for me because I did not like my customers.
Okay.
I'd been in a technical field. Yeah, technical field all my life, and that's one of the reasons why I'd like to keep working, especially in the technical field. And actually, I've quit twice, sort of retired twice. The first time was from the chemical industry because things just went downhill. And the second time was doing systems administration because the jobs just dried up in 2008.
Okay.
Especially in this area here when Yum Brands, one of the largest employers in the area, of course, laid off about 600 computer science people.
Okay.
In a space of a couple of months.
So why don't you say what are you doing today? Because I think what you're trying to do is actually pretty interesting.
Yes, I am doing data analysis, and I'd like to get back into statistical experimental design. I am trying to become an expert at R, programming language, because that's getting very popular. And at first I didn't like it. As a matter of fact, I hated it. I said, this stinks, Jump's much better. But R was free, and everybody and their brother's using it. And after a while, I'm sort of liking it. I'm taking the Stanford online course now that Trevor Hasty and Rob Tibshirani are teaching.
Yeah, that's the one big difference. You bring up an interesting point. There's so much online training available that is low cost or free, that it's really quite your ability to get trained is really quite different. Or to acquire new skills is quite different than when our parents were of the same age.
Yes, and I was always one for self-education. I just enjoy that sort of thing.
Yep.
And way back when, the problem was trying to find some useful material. So you had to pick a little bit from here and take what you could get and try to apply it. But now I'm just overwhelmed.
Right.
There's the Data Camp and Udemy and Udacity and all the courses on Coursera and Stanford Online. And everybody's getting in. edX.
Yes. Yeah, there's a tremendous, you bring up an interesting point, is the fact that if you have the interest, there is tremendous amount out there. I listened to the Chris Farrell's, he wrote Unretirement. He had an Unretirement podcast. And one of the things he talked about was certifications. And one of the examples what he talked about was, believe it or not, was a quilting certification. There was a company that makes quilt patterns that was certifying people to teach people how to create the quilts.
All right.
And so there's Mr. Martin. How are you, sir?
Hi, Mike.
You're bouncing.
How's the audio?
It's okay. Speak
I'm
to
using
me.
a cell phone.
Okay. Well, actually, it's interesting. I've had very good luck with cell phones and Skype, and so the only issue with cell phones and iPads is people tend to want to move them around. So I end up getting drunk. So, Mike, do you mind telling your little story about becoming a train driver in Houston?
Sure, I kind of like to start it off by saying I ran away and joined the railroad. And there goes Elizabeth.
Yeah, she's having computer problems.
Yeah, I see. I had thought about a career pivot and doing something that I really wanted to do or always wanted to do. It's one of those childhood things, getting behind the controls of a train. So I went to Houston, and I was surprised they actually hired me. And I had, now what do I do? So I looked at apartments, and I said, this is way too expensive. So I bought a used RV and stuck it in an RV park, and I went to work out of that for 2 years. what I found when I got there, I said, I could do more than just drive the train, and I wound up burning in new rail vehicles, testing the new alignment through their expansion, and that went on for 2 years. And when I got done with that, I said, boy, that was extremely interesting and fun, but this is going to become rather mundane. And I moved back to Austin, and I'm trying to find something else to do right now.
Yeah, it's
And
actually I did Mike's Berkman and his assessment, and we worked together. And one of his comments is when he was a kid, if it had wheels, keels, or wings, it had to be fun. And so, yeah,
that was it. Wings, wheels, and keels.
Yep, wings. What? Sorry, wheels, wings, and keels.
No, I'm confusing. Wings, wheels, or keels?
Okay.
Because that I like the way it flowed when I would write that.
So yeah, it's
anyway. Right now, I'm discovered. I'm a private pilot. I've got 300 hours, and going to work flying right now is not the most, I guess, friendly things to do. The salaries are against you. The time is against you. It's against me because I'm almost 60. So I thought, what am I going to do with this all this flying education that I had too? And I started talking to a company here in Austin, aerial inspection with drones. And this is really hot now. So I went out and bought one. I've already had an interview with the company over the telephone. They liked everything we did. In fact, what really impressed those people was testing on the railroad.
Yeah.
And a team. So he said, I like everything with that. He says, but you don't have much drone experience. He says, can you get some? I said, sure. I went out and bought a drone for Christmas, and I was flying it today, in fact, and I've discovered that I'm very good at aerial photography with this thing. And
by the way, that's the greatest way to prove that you're good. Is do a lot of aerial photography. It's a good point.
So this is a kind of a career pivot development here. So I'll keep you guys abreast of how it's going.
Well, good.
I need 5 more hours, then I can talk to them again. They have to have 25 hours. I have a feeling it's because of their insurance. And if you don't crash one of these things in the first 20 minutes, so
okay,
I still have it. I'm continuing. So that's pretty much where I'm at right now.
Cool. Thank you, Mike. I see Adam Jones.
Thanks, Mike.
Joined us. Do you want to pop in? There's an open seat. So, Stan, how long do you plan on working?
Probably till I die. I'm a workaholic. I can't envision not working.
Right.
In my younger days, especially when I had those part-time jobs in school and shortly thereafter, I'd worked 2 jobs, things like that. And I've always gone to school at night.
Yep.
Went to grad school at Rutgers at night. Where else? Went to the University of Pittsburgh.
Which Rutgers campus?
2 of them. I went to New Brunswick. I lived in Highland Park, worked in Edison. I went to the main one in New Brunswick, and I took 1 or 2 courses that were at the experimental station, their agricultural experimental station.
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up in Lawrenceburg in East Brunswick. My grandmother my grandmother lived in Highland Park. And do you know where Miller Hall is on the New Brunswick campus?
No, I can't remember. What was in there?
Well, that was named after my grandfather.
Really?
Yeah, my grandfather started University College there. He was
All right.
he was the first dean at University College.
Really?
So-
Oh man, I liked Rutgers.
Well, I always claimed that New Jersey was a great place to be from. I got out
Yes.
as soon as I could.
Yeah, I lasted 4 years.
So I think our resume workshop lady says she's in New Jersey. That's I'm trying to think who the resume workshop is. That Tracy? Is that right? She doesn't want to get on because she's in her PJs.
Okay.
Okay. So you're at Keene University, Tracy. Is that North or South Jersey? So do anybody else have any questions? If you want, just type the questions into the question box. You're in North Jersey. My brother lives outside of Wayne in Little Falls. I claim he's blissful. He was across the street from the Trade Center in '93 when they tried to blow it up, and he had an office in Hoboken with a picture window facing the train center on 9/11. So not good. So does anybody else have any questions? Because I had a couple of folks pop in. We got one new. She says, Tracy says, I'm actually 30 minutes from New Jersey. I'm also in New York oh, yes.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I got in that morning. I was working for a tech startup here, and, I was riding my bicycle into work, so I rolled in about 8:30 or so, and everybody was gathered around the TV set. So I then tried to call my brother, and I couldn't. And I eventually got a hold of my sister-in-law, and it's kind of eerie in the fact that I grew up. My dad worked the New York Stock Exchange, so he used to take the train into Newark, took the PATH train underneath the Trade Center, and then took the subway north. So I grew up watching the Trade Center go up. So. So anybody else got any questions? So Mark just joined us. Ooh, Tracy said she saw both planes hit. I'm sorry
man.
I'm sorry to hear that. So I see Elizabeth is back. I guess she's given up trying to get back in. Anybody else want to pop in? So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be blogging on this concept of the second half of life, and what does that mean? And obviously what we're all seeing is our priorities are very different now than what they were when we were 25 or 30. And although we are probably trying to make the exact same decisions that we did when we were 25 or 30 years old. But I'm sorry, I'm not trying to pay a mortgage off anymore, although we still have a lot of people still doing that. But I'm also not saving for my kids' college education either. So, any other questions? Otherwise, I'm gonna stop the recording.